Okay, so I know that there are likely many things about mandatory taxation people may dislike, but hear me out. There are actually some things about mandatory taxation which can help to increase people's happiness, and later I'll also share a simple tip which can increase your happiness by 40%. So, people's first reaction to me stating that mandatory taxation makes people happy may be to recoil and almost reflexively state that it doesn't, at least not with them. If this was your first reaction, let me know in the comments, but also at the end, let me know if you agree with what I'm about to say and whether this has actually changed your views at all. In a very catchy sounding 2007 paper, Neural responses to taxation and voluntary giving reveal motives for charitable donations. Researchers scanned the brains of participants while they experienced mandatory taxation, and this share of their money going to help others in need. And they also had their brains scanned while they decided whether to give money to charity or keep it for themselves. What the researchers discovered was that ancient areas of the brain linked with feeling good when getting basic needs met, like enjoying food or feeling valued by others, became active, showing that helping others, even through mandatory taxation, stimulates the areas of the brain associated with increasing your own happiness. For mandatory taxation to increase happiness, you need to know what your taxes are being spent on, and ideally seeing real-world examples of how your contribution is helping other individuals in society. This is something which is often lacking. We pay taxes and don't necessarily think about where that money is going, and the government doesn't necessarily do a very good job of promoting some of the things made possible because of your taxes. Whereas when you hear stories from people who are perhaps disabled, who have been able to change their home or have a car or have additional support, perhaps from a carer or helper, which opens up their life, or when someone becomes unemployed and you hear their story about how they have managed to continue to support their family and keep a roof over their head because of the benefits that they could claim. Or perhaps when someone has life-saving medical treatment and aftercare for free, and you see the positive impact that this has had, where they haven't had to forgo treatment because they couldn't afford it or bankrupt themselves to have the treatment, and you can see how happy their children and family are that that person was able to have that life-saving treatment. Or maybe you just see children enjoying books in a library. I know that many people are aware how underfunded many of the public services are, and how support offered to those in need is often below what people would feel is the bare minimum. And so for every case of someone getting support, for someone else the support just isn't enough, and this can cause frustration and a desire for things to improve, including people often feeling that they would be happier to pay just a little bit more tax as long as the system's fair and not just raising taxes on those who can least afford an increase, if it's meant that the money would go into the various supportive services. But being aware of how your tax contribution is helping others in need triggers activations in areas of the brain increasing happiness. What triggers an even greater response and increases happiness further is when you've actually decided to be charitable yourself and giving money or giving something to others, rather than just seeing money that you've given already, kind of against your will, going on to help others. But it isn't about the money, it's about the kindness. You don't need to part with your hard-earned cash to increase your own happiness. You can spread kindness for free and still get the reward of increased happiness. I said that I was going to share a way you can increase your happiness by 40%. In a 2005 paper, Pursuing Happiness, the Architecture of Sustainable Change, researchers set participants the task of doing 5 non-financial acts of kindness per week over a 6-week period. Acts of kindness included things like helping a friend or relative, giving thank you notes, or visiting an elderly relative. Some participants were asked to do 1 act of kindness a day, so 5 days across a week of individual acts of kindness for 6 weeks. Other participants were asked to do all 5 acts of kindness in a single day each week, and then there was a control group who didn't do any acts of kindness above whatever they might have done for their everyday life. They just filled in measurement forms. Those who performed acts of kindness increased happiness across the 6 weeks, with those who did a single act of kindness a day having a small increase, those who did no acts of kindness having a decrease, but those who performed all 5 acts of kindness in a single day increased their happiness by over 40%. This is a similar outcome to a study done looking at whether being grateful increases happiness, where it was also found that the largest increase in happiness and well-being across a 6-week period was in those who contemplated what they were grateful for just once per week rather than multiple times per week. The thinking is that if you do small acts of kindness every day, it doesn't really stand out much over the acts of kindness that you perhaps already do within your day. Whereas if you do 5 acts of kindness in a single day each week, that stands out far more and so increases happiness across the week far more. With the second study, it's thought that it can become more repetitive and people can become bored with it over time. It stops seeming so meaningful and fresh over time. Whereas if you contemplate what you're grateful for just once per week, then this keeps that fresher, stops it being such a chore, and keeps it more meaningful and effective at increasing your well-being and happiness. It could be that some of this also applies to the acts of kindness study. It's probably more of a chore and perhaps seems less meaningful if you're trying to go above and beyond with acts of kindness every single day, rather than just once a week of going above and beyond your normal level of kindness. What are your thoughts? What do you think? Just let me know in the comments below. Here at the Mind Changers, we try to help you change your mind to change your life. If you want to learn more about increasing happiness, you may be interested in this video here. Thank you for watching.